Hello everybody, my name is Melissa Bologna, and today I will be teaching you how to make an easy and delicious AIP compliant beef bone broth. Okay, so we're gonna do this recipe based on a 24 quart pot, which is quite large. So I will write how much of everything you need for this, and you could always do the conversion for a different size pot. But the more the merrier, and the reason why I make the beef broth and not have my own for Beauty and the Broth is there is currently tomato paste in our recipe, and you best believe I'm working on making a whole line of AIP compliant bone broths, which I'm super excited about. But B, during this autoimmune protocol, you know, bone broth is not only a lunch or dinner I have in a bowl as a soup, but it's also a drink and a snack I have throughout the day. And what you will learn is that you're gonna want the variety of tastes and flavors. So during the daytime, I simply drink my Beauty and the Broth chicken bone broth, which has been a huge game changer. I add olive oil and ghee and a little bit of soleil water, which is made with real salt. And then for the lunch portion, dinner portion, I use the beef broth that I make because it's a little bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy, because you will see at the end of the stew, the carrots and everything, I kind of sort it out at the end, and I will actually reuse some of this in my bone broth stew. I put these meats in there to cook for a long time, 18 hours at minimum. And these bones my new Bernedoodle loves, so it actually saves me money on bones and soup fixtures, and it's a great way to slow cook meat. For this recipe, I recommend about 10 pounds of grass-fed marrow bones. And the smaller the better, because the longer ones are kind of harder to break down, so you could always tell your butcher to break it down. And I happen to know how expensive this gets. So try your hardest to do grass-fed meats, because it's very, very important. You are what you eat. And the only other thing I would say is something that's very important is to have organic celery, because celery just carries a bunch of pesticides on it and all that stuff. So that's something good to have organic. And then the rest of these items, the leeks, the garlic, the carrots, the onions, the thyme, the rosemary, and tarragon. Get whatever is within your budget, and just make sure you clean everything very well. It's okay to soak it in salt water for 10 minutes or whatever. And yes, I'm being over the top, but my life has been consumed now by this mold poisoning, so I've become a little bit over the top about it. What you want to do here is use half the amount of pepper and salt required in this recipe to season the bones that will be roasted at 400 degrees for about 40 minutes or until brown, and the rest of the bones will go directly into the pot with the rest of the salt and pepper. Cider vinegar, there's already water in here. I'm gonna add the rest of the salt, the rest of the peppercorns, and of course our bones to soak before their friends in the oven join us. Everything here just needs a rough cut. Feel free to keep all the ends to these things, and we're gonna be roasting all the vegetables in the animal fat. The garlic, you also want to save the skin. It should be no different. And when you cut these pieces up, you should wash it a bit so it releases more flavor when you roast it and in the stew. Also, I highly recommend getting onion glasses. Now you take the roasted bones and put them carefully into the pot. And remember, you're gonna need the fat from this for the vegetables. You're gonna wanna put everything except the celery and herbs in the animal fat. And animal fat is great too for recovering from mold or a lot of these autoimmune protocols. Roast for 40 minutes at 400 degrees. Okay, now at the 2-hour mark, you're gonna put in the roasted vegetables and the celery and herbs into the pot to stew and simmer over 18 hours. Now we've moved on to the straining section. Just be careful moving the large pot because it's very heavy. It's my second workout. And I recommend getting a restaurant grade chinois strainer you can get off of Amazon, a ladle, and of course tongs to grab the bones for your dog, let them cool off. Some great marrow in there, and of course some of the meat we've cooked for all these 20 plus hours, and saving the carrots and leeks, that way you could put them into your future stews. So it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I recommend straining it into a Pyrex plate, that way we could cool it immediately in the fridge or freezer so that the fat goes to the surface, which we will skim after the few hours it's in the freezer. Broth has been in the freezer for about 2 hours to get this nice fat layer on top. I recommend you save this, as once again, cooking bone broth becomes a bit of everything, kind of serves its purpose. So you could use this to cook meats and vegetables and stick it in the broth as a soup. So just skim the top and save it in your fridge in a container. Super easy. I'm using a spoon, but you could also get a fat skimmer on Amazon. Ta-da! And thank you so much for watching my AIP compliant beef bone broth video, and I really hope that this was helpful. Message me on Instagram if you have any questions at Melissa Bologna. Thanks.